Okay, Dixie, I would like you to tell us a little bit about your first experiences with Isle Arrest and your journey on this property.
In 1958, Isle Rest was deeded to the four Shelton boys of Willis Shelton, and the boys were David Airy, Haywood Shelton, Bill Shelton, and Clarence Shelton. The place had been vacant for almost 25 years. His uncle originally owned it, and he lived in La Jolla, California, so they never came back to this property. So that's why Henry left the property to the brothers. When we received possession of it, it had been vandalized. They had taken feather mattresses, opened them up, threw them all over the downstairs, and then poured paint on top of that. And it was one big mess. So after many days of cleaning, we were able to at least settle in here. But there was no furniture. Everything had been pretty well destroyed. So we would only come back maybe 2 weeks out of the year every summer because we were in the military. His older brother was in the military, the others lived in Texas, and it was just not a convenient time to be coming back and forth. So after many years, we had a seaplane. We came back up here and we flew out of Cranberry Lake, and that way we were able to stay in the house. So, being the person that can't stand chaos, I decided to take it upon myself, and I was going to rearrange this place and make it livable. So I bought some furniture, made some lamps, pictures, and this is the product of what we ended up with.
And so what kind of changes have you made through the years?
Basically, to the house, none. It's all the original wood. The fireplace is all original. The really only changes is the decorating part of it.
That's to the inside.
Inside.
And what about the outside?
The outside had not been painted in probably 50 years. So we painted that, did some repairs outside, put in some new steps that go down to the lake. But basically, the old lady has just stood up. It's been amazing through all these snowstorms, windstorms, microbursts, and she's still standing.
And what, do you have anything else that you'd like to say about the property and what it means to you?
It's been a very calming place to come to. We are on a peninsula. We're surrounded on three sides by water, so it's very private. And my personality is, I like the isolation of it. I know I can go 2 miles into town, but it's very very quiet, and I like that of it.
And how many years would you say that you've been spending the entire summer up here?
I'd say for the last probably 18 years. We've been coming up here. We've stayed here for the 3 or 4 months out of the year.
Okay. So I know that some pieces in the house are a bit historical significance, so can you talk maybe about the basket that's behind you?
Yes, the basket was made by an Indian that's lived in Star Lake, and his name was Spike. I don't know his last name. And by the time I met him, he was probably in his late 80s. And he was still making these pack-back baskets, so I bought one, and it's been in here ever since.
What about the tree trunks that you have in this room?
When we had the microburst, one end of the house was lifted up a little bit, and so it moved. So in order to disguise it, Clarence went out and cut these gray birch trees, and we put them in the corners, so it kind of disguises some of the leaning. Plus, it gives it a little bit more character, and I love it.
Okay.
But there is a piece that is really old in here, and this is a piece from a boathouse that is no longer here, and this was one of the trim piece, and so they were going to burn it, and I stopped them in time, and I thought we needed to have a visual of what the old boathouse originally looked like, so that's why that's up there.
And you said this is the original fireplace.
Original fireplace.
Okay.
The picture over the fireplace is a collage of paintings that a local woman made that she did for the Adirondack Park Centennial, which was 1892 to 1992. So I made a frame for it and put the poster in it.
And you added the tree limb to the mantle.
And the mantle, right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the fireplace no longer works, and so you made this tree covering for it.
Correct.
Okay. And what about these two pieces of furniture, or three pieces?
There was a gentleman in Star Lake by the name of Simpson. That was his last name. I don't know what his first name was because I never called him anything but Mr. Simpson. And these two chairs and the porch swing were the first pieces that he made. And I think I was probably the second person that bought furniture from him. But he was self-taught. He had his own vision of what he wanted to make, and I just fell in love with him. I thought it was perfect for this cottage.
And did he make the table as well?
And, yes, the table too.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the carpet in here.
Well, since it's fairly cold up here, even in the summertime for a Texan, I had to put some carpet down because I was cold all the time. And it did help a little bit. It's not exactly like a tight cottage. Wind comes through here.
Where did you get the carpet?
I bought it in Watertown.
Oh, I thought that was good. Okay.
This cabinet, though, was a little bit interesting.
Yes.
I had a friend that, when they redid their kitchen, this came out of their cottage, and their mother had put the original cupboards in, and she had no use for it, but she didn't want it destroyed. So she brought it over to me, and she said, do something with it. So it was too low, so I had to elevate it a little bit with some logs, and then I just trimmed it out in this was cherry that I trimmed it out in with the pine cones.
Okay. And let's come in here in the library and tell us about this room a little bit.
Originally, this was a storage room, and it had tar paper all over it, and so we tore all that off, and then I just took soap and water and washed the walls, and it got rid of a lot of the residue. I mean, it's very weathered, but I like the color of the wood.
Okay, is there anything over here that you'd like to talk about on this wall?
No, this is all been added. This wasn't original.
Okay.
Over here, when Clarence's father put the electricity in, there was a lot of electrical lines coming down here. So in order to disguise it, I just put this wood in and trimmed it out. And then these were just open studs, so I put the shelves in, made a little library. And basically that's, and behind here is our electrical panel and all that, so I try to disguise that a little bit.
And this chair is Mr. Simpson as well?
Yeah, he made that also.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the stool, little stool.
And the L far out is what?
That is a sailboat race every September, and the person that comes in last place gets how far out. But fortunately, we haven't been able to give it away. We've won it about every year.
And then what about this piece of
Well, before his uncle tried to sell this property and didn't have any offers, and he was only asking $3,000 for it, but nobody would pay it. So then that's when I guess he decided, well, it can stay in the Shelton family if he just gives it to his nephews. So that was the sign that had been made up, and I thought, oh, got to keep that. So.
Excellent. Very good. Okay, now we're in the kitchen, and I would like you to tell me about these two pieces here.
This piece came out of a little town called DeKalb Junction, and it was in an antique place, but it had been outside, so it was pretty well weathered. So when I brought it back, my intention was to completely stain it, everything, but some of the doors were in too bad a shape, so I had to end up painting, trimming those out. But the rest of the wood I was able to salvage pretty much.
That's beautiful.
This piece over here was a dresser, and of course it was low, so I had to make some more legs, bring it up a little bit higher. And it had contact paper on it, and when I pulled the contact paper off, it was black. So I was able to get most of it stripped off where I could stand and looked okay, but the door facings themselves didn't turn out very well, so I painted them. But what was interesting about the painting, and I don't know if it'll show up on the video, there's a design that bled through. It's very subtle. I doubt if it will come through, but you can see it in person.
And you had wanted an island for the kitchen, and so this is the island, and you didn't want things to fall off the back.
Right. So I put these little. This is also cherry twigs that I put on the back of it.
Oops. Yeah, it's very nice. And on the back, very nice.
The spice cabinet came from the same woman that gave me the other piece in the living room I was showing you. And this was all things that was her mother's. And she didn't want it destroyed, so she brought it over to me and said, can you use it? So I said, well, yeah, I guess I can use it as spice rack.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, now we're in the bathroom. And tell me a little bit about your bathroom experiences here at Isle Rest.
When we took over in 1958, there was no bathroom. It was just an outside privy. So I think it took us 2 years, and the women did not like going out to the privy. So my husband's brother, Bill, stayed over one summer after everybody left and put in a foundation, put the walls up, and basically left it like that. So
what were the walls made out of?
They were just studded out. There was no finish work to them at all.
All I remember is cinder block.
The cinder block comes up halfway up here, and then the rest of it was wood. So when one summer when we were here longer, I just took barn wood and I covered the walls with that. There was no cabinet, no bathtub. There was a shower, if you can call it that. It was very primitive. So about 10 years ago, we had a friend that came up and helped me, and we just started all over. We just ripped everything out, put in some insulation, drywall, and we built up a platform to put the tub on. So I end up with a modern bathroom.
And the mirror,
The mirror, after scrounging around, I couldn't find anything that would fit between the sink and the light. So we had a friend that owned a lumber yard, and he cut the lumber for me to make the frame, and then I just trimmed out the wood. And this is gray birch. You peel it off, and this is all glued on here, and then I trimmed that out also in the cherry wood.
Lovely. And what about this
That
cabinet?
came from an antique store in DeKalb Junction. And there's another companion to this that I have in another room.
Okay. Very nice. And I love the hooks that you hang your towels on, that you made out of cherry.
Cherry wood.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So here we are in the master bedroom, we'll call it.
I guess that's
Okay.
good.
All right. And what would you like to tell us about this room?
Well, this room, the only thing that was left in here was the bed itself. And of course, we had to get new mattresses because they were all feather mattresses, which had been cut open and thrown all over the place. So, this frame worked for us because my husband is tall and it didn't have a foot on it, so he's able to sleep in this one.
And I assume you had to take all the paint off?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
had to
pretty.
refinish it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and what about the closet?
Well, we didn't have a closet, and all these cottages were not built with closets as a rule. You would just hang up a curtain and kind of hide your clothes. So I had enough room on this end that we could put this in. And basically, again, using nature and just trimmed it out.
With the nice September leaves, the foliage that you made this pretty tree out of. Yeah. The wood is so pretty in this house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Guess you don't need the deck.
No, I've been trying to debate.
Yeah, it doesn't look too good there. But
Oh. Okay, I can kind of stand out there for a second. I'll say that door actually shuts pretty nicely. Is there anything that you would like to say on camera?
Not at this moment.
Okay.